Good afternoon. It's Wednesday, the 13th of July, height of summer, apparently. My name is Lavinia, and I'm joined by Yasmin. We are from the M Word, and it's lovely to have everybody. I'm very, very, very sorry that we weren't able to do last week due to having our very first business meeting, which was incredibly exciting because our team has grown from 3 to 6, which is extremely exciting, I must say. So we're acutely aware that for those in Scotland and Leicestershire, strangely, are now on holiday and have been for the last couple of weeks, but everybody else seems to be starting as of the end of this week and the following week. So what we thought might be a good idea, straddling two ends of the country, as it were, on holiday, is thinking about summer holidays and some of the challenges, but also some of the things that we can think about doing that might help our families a little bit more. And I've got a funny feeling that, Yasmin, in your diary, you said this weekend it's celebrating Ice Cream Day. Was that right?
Yeah. So last week it was National Chocolate and Macaroni Cheese Day, which was a good day. Unfortunately, I missed out on both of those. So this weekend it is National Ice Cream Day. Not to be confused with National Chocolate Ice Cream Day, because that's got its own day.
Really?
Yeah. I promise you, I've got all these weird dates in my diary. You know I do. So
Who thinks of these things? Chocolate ice cream, top of the agenda.
it's clearly a superior flavour, so it needs its own day. I don't know.
So I guess one of the things that I would like to kind of think about from a sensory perspective is that lots of people associate summer holidays with being a long time off school, but also about warmth, heat, sunshine. And actually, I don't cope very well with all of that because I have a light sensitivity, or some people know it as Erlin syndrome. And also, I don't cope very well with being too hot. I mean, I definitely don't cope with being too cold, but definitely not too hot. It gets too uncomfortable and too stressful. And I know that some people find light sensitivity so bad that they actually experience migraine. So we're already at a disadvantage if we then have 6 long weeks off school with issues around heat and light sensitivity. And obviously when you get more stress with your sensories, it doesn't bode very well because you just spend a lot of time feeling very uncomfortable and very anxious, which of course when you start wearing clothes doesn't bode well yet again. How do you view summer then? Are you out there on your sunbed, or I mean, do you love the sunshine? Do you love the heat? What goes on for you?
I think I used to enjoy it more because obviously I was a kid and I didn't realise I was going out into the sun. Like, I didn't go out to go sunbathing. I just happened to, hang around a swimming pool or go out with my friends, and I was outside a lot. Nowadays, I think I really struggle going out to sunbathe because my ADHD just I can't sit there and not do nothing. It's really painful. So I have a slight suntan now from when we had some nice weather a couple of weeks ago. But I had to go out with my headphones on so that I was like listening to something or watching a TV show because I couldn't sit still otherwise. I would have just kept coming in. And I have to kind of psych myself up to go outside. I have to really, otherwise I will just stay inside all day. Um,
Mm.
and I enjoy it when I'm doing it. Like, I don't feel like I'm being punished or something. I do enjoy sunbathing and stuff like that, but it's everything that leads up to that enjoyment that I don't like.
Yeah, sure.
Like going to have to put a blanket on the grass because I don't like the texture of grass on my skin. I'm getting too hot. I've got to, it's too much to deal with, and I'm like, oh, I don't enjoy this. I don't. And then you always go, oh, come outside and do some gardening, and I'm like, no, don't want to do that.
I'm sorry, but do you see me doing it in the height of sunshine and the height of sun, the day of the sun. I do.
Well, to be fair, we haven't got super hot weather at the moment.
It's very
It's a bit
bright though. I
oh yeah,
really
no,
struggle.
I have to wear my shades all the time because it's so bad.
Mm.
But with Erlin, I don't know. I obviously got my Erlin glasses at quite a young age. I think I was about 8 when I got my first pair.
Mm.
And I didn't wear them because everyone would pick on me for them. So I think I've kind of conditioned myself to deal with the headaches.
Yeah.
So they're not as noticeable anymore, which is probably really bad because, I'm giving myself these headaches. But because I've had to kind of persevere with it, because I'd rather have the headaches than be asked, why are you wearing sunglasses indoors? I kind of just got used to it.
Mm. I was thinking though as well, we were talking about sunglasses. Not everybody feels comfortable wearing glasses, do they? I know a lot of young people who really struggle with it, and indeed adults who just absolutely hate wearing glasses, and would much prefer to tolerate lenses. I can't get my head around that. I really struggle with poking my eyeball, but there are a lot of people who do have a preference, and that needs to be considered, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really like wearing glasses, but I can't do the lenses, so I've kind of got to wear the glasses. But sometimes I will sacrifice, and it's not a beauty thing, but like sometimes my glasses don't go with my outfit, so I will sacrifice vision. Like when we were going to Liverpool, and you said, "Can you read what the sign said?" And I went, "I'm not wearing my glasses. No, I can't." I didn't want it to ruin my makeup. It's not. Which sounds really bad and really vain, but it was just like, I don't want my glasses to make marks on my face and stuff, and so I'd rather just be blind. I'd rather just not be
Yeah.
able to see. I'm already clumsy as it is, so if I trip over something because I'm not wearing my glasses, I can just pretend it's because I'm clumsy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's also the idea, I suppose, as well, is when it gets really hot, one of the things that we're always saying when we send our children outside when it's really hot and sunny is, put cream on, to protect your skin. And certainly 5 years ago, there was a big effort, such energy from the NHS, schools, anyone that could, support and promote looking after your skin. But again, we have a lot of young people who really struggle with creams on their skin. They just cannot bear it. And that's really difficult because obviously, how do you then protect it? Do you then put on the layers? And then you have those who have the sensories around, I don't want clothes. If anything, I'd be much rather butt naked, running around freely. So that's to the extreme. But obviously, we do need to consider that. And then there are some creams that are designed, as you discovered last week, that are actually designed to make you peel quickly. Thinking about sunscreen, and actually, people don't like the idea of their body shedding skin. And yet others would absolutely sensory seeking, would just love to spend all the time picking off the dead skin and getting a bit of a high on it. So there is quite a bit to consider rather than just thinking, yes, we'll go out, it's nice and sunny, let's go out. But also there are some young people who just feel totally unable to go outside because of such high levels of anxiety. And equally, there are many children who would much prefer to go out in the garden rather than going outside of the home. So you kind of have to be thinking quite a lot, don't you, really, about what do we need to consider for our autistic children, and really adults, because we have a lot of parents who don't actually know that they are potentially autistic. They're very focused on their children because of the difficulties we have at the moment around school. But if we have an autistic child, it's 50%, isn't it? The parent could be the one. on the autistic spectrum. So it may well be that we kind of just need to really consider that, you know, for this program as well, I think. So first of all, I guess the thing for me is there's a lot of planning that's needed, isn't there? An awful lot of planning, far more than most people would consider.
Yeah.
We have one client who's very young, 7 or 8, and I've trained the parents well, if I say so myself. But anyway, in the training of it, what they found is that their youngster has absolutely thrived on learning how to literally find a routine, like really quickly. And the routine is quite simplistic in that they put things on a bed for this young lad to kind of see visually what he might like to take before it goes into the suitcase. They do lots of drip feeding, lots of pictures, lots of ideas about what they might do, and that's followed up with pictures of what they can find on the internet, both of the location of activities, but also of where they're going to stay. And when they go there, they don't actually go straight to the place they're going to go and stay. It's quite intriguing. What they do is they go to the nearest beach. And as they're driving, they're obviously clocking where the shops are. So there are 2 types of shops. One is an ice cream shop, and 2, a shop that you can buy goodies from. So they go to the beach, even though they might have done a 3-4 hour journey, and then they stop on the way back to the choice of shop that's open. And then they go to where they're going to stay. And the reason why they found this really effective is because transitions are incredibly hard. They're really cumbersome, aren't they? So rather than transferring from a home to an unfamiliar home that's going to be their home for the next few days, they found that by having a break in the middle, so you know, you start your holiday destination not at the place you're going to stay, but at the activity that you're probably going to do, and then that becomes the routine thing that you're going to do every day. So they then will go back to the beach, probably to the same place, probably to the same routine of catching an ice cream on the way back when they finish for the day, because that's an early starter of food. But allows that just gentle transition and going back home, which is really quite intriguing. They've been back to one place twice now, and it was even better the second time around. So there's something quite interesting about that, isn't there? It's about the transitions, but also the prepping and the visual prepping, you know, like lying the things out on the bed, getting in the car and clocking things as you're coming towards your destination, isn't there? Do you remember what we did with you?
Yeah, I was just thinking about that actually. Depending on where we went on holiday, because obviously, you know, when I was younger, we did Ross Niger and then we did Ross Niger again, so I was kind of already familiar with the area. But I'm thinking more like airports. We'd always go into like a Tesco's or an Asda first and pick some sweets up, because I suffered with, like, you know, the things that affect your ears. I don't know when the air pressure changes, and that was always kind of like not therapeutic, but it was gearing me up to going into an airport and stuff, you know. So when I think of things like that, I'm like, oh yeah. So I even do it now. Before we go on like a road trip, we go to Tesco's, we get some snacks, we do that, and that's kind of, you know. And I think when you're in your own car as well, especially as I've got older, I get to pick the music. I don't care if nobody else likes my music. I like it. That's all that matters, you know. Because there's a TV show that I really like, and it was they had a famous quote from it of driver picks the music, shotgun shuts his cake hole. And I'm like, I agree with that, but I'm also picking the music even when I'm passenger. So, you know, either way, if I'm in the car, I'm probably going to be picking the music.
That's quite interesting again, isn't it? Because again, it's about that level of control. And I think one of the things that we need to remind ourselves is, particularly when we've got a PDA profiling, it's not about the naughty behavior. It's very much about the anxiety, and that need for control is not about controlling everybody. It's about feeling safe. And
Yeah,
when we
I mean,
don't feel safe, obviously that's going to escalate, isn't it? So
yeah.
yes, if we can all tolerate your music, Yasmin, I guess we'll
It,
be all right.
it makes it sound like being a little bit of a dictator, but I have such a wide and varied music taste. I often do try to pick out of the music I like what I think other people might be okay with
Mm,
listening. Like, you know, sometimes I
mm,
have annoyed you, and we're listening to country music, like American country music, but it's because we're in Jess. It's a whole vibe, and if I'm wearing my nice horse boots, it's a whole vibe, and I've got to go the whole way. You know, but if it's like just normal picky music, I'll try and go for like ABBA or things that you do, like Queen. I know you like Queen, but if Dad's in the car, I don't do Queen because he hates them. You know, so I do kind of take in other people's preference, but at
mm.
the end of the day, it is still the best of my bunch.
Yeah. Um, One of our members has said we'll only use spray sun cream
Yeah, that's the thing with the
because then it's not being
more
lathered on,
modern
is
we're
it?
getting. Yeah, but the more modern we're getting, the more options you have. So you now have spray on sunscreen. You have there's this new brush that I saw on TikTok the other day that you fill in with your sun cream to get it on kids' faces without it feeling like you're getting in their
Yeah.
face. You know, it's like a
Okay.
makeup brush, and it comes out so that you can put it all on and it's fine. You can get roll-on sun cream now. It's like a deodorant, but it's obviously
Mm,
not. You know, so
mm,
there is definitely now a wider variety of types of sun cream you can have,
yeah.
which makes it a hell of a lot easier. But I don't know about you. Maybe I was a weird kid. I'm not sure. I really liked sun cream to the point that I would wear it like as perfume during winter because I like the coconutty smell. It makes me feel like I'm
Mm-hmm,
on holiday, and
mm-hmm.
I could never find. And I'm talking like when I'm like 8, 7. You know, I would wear that. So in winter I'd be rubbing it on, going, "Oh, I smell so lovely. I smell like I'm on holiday."
Yeah.
But you know,
Do you know what I was just thinking is lots of autistic children are very fussy about not being able to have wet with dry food, you know, like spaghetti bolognese or rice and curry. They can have rice or curry, you know, spaghetti or bolognese, but they can't have the two mixed together. And I was thinking actually, when you think about sunscreen, it does generally tend to be very wet, doesn't it? You know, it's
yeah.
not, it's a very slimy feeling. And obviously there is a variety of brands, but it's how tolerant is a child willing to try and experiment. It's not easy, is it?
Well, the
But
thing is, some of the
pseudocreme,
textures. Oh, go on.
no, I was just thinking pseudocreme tends to be a dotting
It's very thick.
exercise rather than a smearing exercise, doesn't
Yeah.
it? And although it doesn't protect the skin in the way that some of the sunscreens do, it does have a barrier. And if anything, it's better than nothing, I suppose. And it's
Yeah.
been going for you know for the last century or so as a good standard recipe. Um, because otherwise you're then having to think if a child is totally intolerant of any sort of spray, any sort of cream, it's then thinking about, do you not go outside, or do you find a sunshade like a bit of a wigwam, or you know under a canvas of a caravan, you know, whatever they call it, um, you know, or do you simply wear a hat, a very large hat, and cover every scrap of your skin up?
Well, I think the thing is with sun cream as well, because there are so many brands, all of their textures are very different. You can have very
Yeah,
watery sun cream, you can have very thick sun cream, you can have sun cream that leaves like a greasy film on you and you feel
yeah,
like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
that's disgusting, I can't deal with that. So it's not the same every time. Whereas if you were to say to an autistic person, why do you like this specific food? It's a safe food because it's the same every time. Sun cream, unfortunately, is not like that.
Yeah,
So it can be
yeah,
quite stressful, especially when you run out and they don't sell the one you have anymore. So I've got a sun cream loitering around the house that I rarely use anymore because it's from like 2003. It's probably expired, but it's my favourite sun cream, but they don't sell it anymore. So I try not to use it too much because it's my favourite. I love it, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Somebody's put here, my youngest cannot tolerate the feeling of sun cream on her skin as it is the same as face paint. Would you believe it? Yeah. Face
Yeah.
painting. What would you do on holidays? Of course, some people do have their face painted, don't they? You know, as
Yeah.
part of a fun activity. So that's a bit quite challenging, isn't it? I just wanted to think about also, you know, when we talk about the beach, there are two things that we associate with the beach. One is sand and one is water, seawater generally. And some people have quite a few issues with either one or the other or both. So I hate walking on hot sand because it's very uncomfortable. But I hate even more trying to walk having got wet feet or wet sand in between my toes. Drives me nuts. But I love walking on wet sand, just hate the end bit. And equally, I can't bear the fact that you can hoover the car out several months, years later, and the sand grains are still there. That drives me a bit potty as well. So I've got to the point now where I'm just not going to look at that.
You hoover your car
But
floor?
also, there's lots of people who go into the water and can't bear the idea of touching stones or seaweed, or I see you're doing it with bare feet, and they have to wear plimsolls or specialist footwear.
Yeah.
And that's quite challenging because obviously people want to enjoy that experience, and not all families feel able to do that because, of course, there are so many things to think about that. If you're not good with crowds, you're not going to want to go to a very busy beach, but equally, if you don't feel very confident at going out in the water or going out to the beach, it's equally challenging, isn't it? So there's an awful lot of things to think about within just those two natural elements.
Yeah.
What did you struggle with, do you think, the most?
I still hate water. I love going to the beach. I love being able to go there and, you know, walking on hot sand. It's a little bit annoying at the time, but I like the slight adrenaline rush it gives me. Got to do like a little hop going. Woo! It's like a cat on a tin roof, really, isn't it? But water, I don't like the fact that there's animals in it. Like, you know, there's little crab. Don't like that. I don't like seaweed. I don't like, you know, so I don't go swimming in the sea. I just don't. And I especially don't like water that you can't really see through. Unfortunately, Anglesey has got quite see-through water, but we're still not the Maldives, are we? So I can't see everything, and that I don't like. So I don't mind going to like the little rock pools a little bit when I'm like throwing a ball for Jude or something. But I can't go swimming at the beach because it's so stressful. You know, I can't do it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if we're thinking about prepping, the pre-planning, is there things that we can do to kind of prep ourselves for? I mean, obviously, you know, if we're thinking about sunscreen or we're thinking about, hats or sunglasses, you know, is there other things that we could be considering? Because to my mind, it feels like a very laborious job, and invariably beaches are not very close to car parks. And there are lots of families who don't have cars, they're reliant on buses to get them from A to B. But then that means that, you know, if you're trying to be pre-planned, you almost feel like you're taking the kitchen sink, you know, a big amount of stuff to take, aren't you?
Yeah.
Which everybody might be getting very excited about going to the beach. and taking things, but equally they don't want to be at the end of the day hot, bothered, tired, to then think about being as animated and willing to carry lots of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I keep saying every year we go to the beach and I'm like, I need a G-Wagon, one of those trolleys that I can take with me, because I bring too much stuff. I mean, we use most of it. It's not like I bring it just to bring it. We do actually end up using it, but then you start getting to the end and you're like, oh God, I've got to pick all this stuff up. I've got to pack it back up. I've got to take it back to the car. And it's like, it's not the fun bit, is it?
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know whether it's fortunate or unfortunately. When I was younger, I had some lady tell me, you bring it out the house, you carry it. And now the same lady is now going, can you carry this for me? I can't carry it. Oh no. And it's like, okay, so I end up carrying everybody's stuff back. And it's like, how did that happen?
No comment. Okay, so in the planning then of going to a beach, one of the things that I do think is usually quite helpful is thinking about games, because not all children are happy to take a bucket and spade and dig with the sand if they are finding that they're totally repulsed by the sand or the water. And also there are some children who really don't want to have elements touching them, so they may be far more comfortable wearing swimwears if they were going snorkeling or surfing, and you see that quite a lot because they have their own little special footwear, so those are all great. But what about other toys that might be helpful? Because there are a number of toys that we can take with us to go to the beach, isn't there? So any ideas of games that might be wanted to play?
Used to take tennis rackets and tennis balls, and then I got to, with Jude, the football stage, because he likes being able to headbutt it back. So often you can just do that with him and he's quite fine. It depends where you go to the beach, I guess, because I remember last summer, 2 summers ago, we were walking the dogs on the beach, and there was a group of about 12 people, and we couldn't hear them, but they were suddenly all throwing their arms up in the air. And we were like, what's wrong with them? What were they doing? And then we realised Jude had stolen their rounders ball. And they were trying to get it back. And they didn't seem to mind that Jude had, hijacked their ball. But it was like, oh no. And then I was like, whose dog's done that? Oh, it's my dog. Oh no. And they were like, oh, it's okay. He just won't give it back. And I was like, I don't even want it back. It's all slobbery. So I ended up trading the tennis ball I'd brought that was still dry and stuff. So it was fine in the end. But I find that with beaches, the best hacks are, when you go to the beach, don't put yourself on a time pressure. There is nothing worse than going, oh, we've only got an hour left, That's why when I go I like to go and not have plans, because I don't like feeling like I'm rushed, because then I don't enjoy it, And you see loads of hacks on the internet and stuff of like, take a fitted bedsheet and turn it inside out and put things in the corner so that when you go in, there is no sand in there. It's an enclosed space.
I was thinking as well, some people have windbreakers, which are really helpful, aren't they? They can kind of you feel as if it's just your contained area, and you would only notice people around you if they happen to walk past you. So sometimes that's quite helpful. Sometimes just taking small children's tents, really small ones, and just give them a little bit of privacy. But again, it's another thing to take, isn't it? I can see why we see these little trolleys, pull along trolleys are so convenient. I was thinking also as well the fact that there is that assumption that we go there to rest and relax, and we assume that sunbathing, but you said earlier that you really find it really difficult to sunbathe. without having something because of the ADHD.
Yeah, the only times I think I've been able to properly sunbathe and not feel like I'm getting antsy is if I've fallen asleep. Because obviously
Yeah,
at that point I can't really do much, can I? I've passed
yeah,
out, so you know. But that's why I normally take my phone and stuff, because then I can, listen to music, whatever, or take a book. I mean, some people do that, don't they? They take books and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
Uh, but I think there are other things that you can do in the summer other than going to the beach. Because I was thinking as well, theme parks and stuff get really busy during the summer, because especially when you have companies who do like 2-for-1 tickets if you buy a Yazoo milkshake, that kind of thing.
yeah.
And everyone goes thinking I've got loads of time, and then you're walking into an environment where there's loads of people, and that
Mm,
can get so overwhelming.
mm. There's definitely something about a list for my mind, because regardless of where you are, you kind of need to think about what you would do in a time frame. And so if we're going to the beach, most people want to be able to go paddling or splashing or making sandcastles or playing ball with their dog or their children, but they also want to go and eat. And then when you leave there, you kind of want to think about, okay, do you take towels? Do you take extra bottles of water so that you can wash your feet off if there's nowhere to shower? Because not everywhere has a convenient shower when you get to the top, where to go and get the
Yeah,
car or get the bus. And you want change of clothes, you need to think about nappies if you've got really young people. And obviously the food is a big factor, isn't it? Food is a definite factor, but also fluids, and not taking enough fluids can really turn it into quite a miserable time when you're hot and bothered. But I do think part of this idea is very much about a shopping list. But we should also turn our attentions to the idea that not everybody wants to go on a beach for a whole day or a whole afternoon, because, like you've already inferred, it's very limiting in some respects, because if you want to keep moving, what do you do? And I suppose the alternative is either a grass event or a tarmac event, but then that opens the opportunity a bit more, doesn't it? Because you could have a grass event where you go and play crazy golf. You've got the theme parks, haven't you? You've got the safari parks like Longleat. There's so many national trust properties around that have wide open spaces generally to go and run around and explore. But there are a few transferable pieces of knowledge, like you do want to take things that be comfortable, you do want to take food, you do want to take fluids, you don't want to have to rush. But I'm also thinking about, how do you keep things interesting without getting bored? And there's a lot of people that kind of go, yes, it's really great to go to the beach or to go to the theme park, but how do you break it up in order to keep people from getting tired or overwhelmed, or indeed hungry? How do we break it up into small bits? So I just wondered what you thought about that.
um well, the thing is, I don't ever really remember having to debate what we're doing today, because I think we kind of always pre-planned it, or you had planned it, so I didn't have to worry about what are we going to do. Because I think if it was left to me, I'd probably just stay home. It's the easiest option, isn't it? I don't have to worry about going anywhere. I might pop to Tesco's to get a nice drink or something, so I can feel like I'm having a bit of a holiday. I think as well, when I was younger, we kind of worked around events. So I know that when I was on holiday in Ross Niagara and stuff, we used to go to the church kid club, and I would go there for a couple of hours, and then we'd go to the beach or we'd watch a movie or something. But that was kind of a routine of, that's from 10 to 2, so that's what I've got to do, and then we kind of worked around that.
Yeah, so you've kind of given the clue away, really, isn't it? It's working around a routine, isn't but it was planning, and we did quite a lot of planning. And you know, we would look ahead, a few weeks ahead, and generally to see what they had on, because they had quite a lot going on. But also they had adverts from other agencies that would put a list together of what they were doing, and that's usually quite helpful. And then you would kind of look at things on the calendar, and then you could go, okay, well, what other things do we need to think about? But we would never have 2 or 3 days lumped together where we were doing major activities, because it was just too exhausting. And although we didn't know when you were a lot younger about autism, it all made sense afterwards when we realized. But we had always factored in, you know, we would do a busy day and then we'd have a rest day, a busy day, a rest day. We never did a whole range of bang, 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 because it just was always too much, you know, including for me as well. But that understanding that you break things up and you have a routine that's very similar to the home environment. You know, you have your breakfast, you have your lunches, you have your evening meal, snacks throughout, but also thinking about the activities are not all day, or if you're spending a time, say for example, all day or all afternoon or all morning, those would be broken up into more manageable different activities. You know, so that the whole day could be enjoyed, but broken down into much more manageable bite sizes for you to be able to go with that. You know, like, again, I know we talk about Ross Niger a lot, but you have a lot of happy memories with that. But, you know, you loved going to Mojo's for your pancakes and chocolate spread over it. Sad.
Yeah, I've got it in my room. It's right there. I think it's because, you know, we live here now, so it's like, oh, these are my memories of local areas and stuff.
Yeah.
Really nice being able to go there and go, oh yeah, I remember playing here as a kid, because, you know, I don't have many places that I have that kind of connection with. You know.
Well, what if I said Legoland?
Well, yeah, no, I remember that. I can't go and see it now, can I? I have to go all the way, you know.
Well, you do now. But there was a time when we were going fairly regularly.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, what I find interesting about that, though, is it's the same Legoland, but the Legoland from when I was, you know, 4, 5, 6, and the Legoland from when I was 13, 14, 15, in my brain are two totally different places.
Really? Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I can remember memories of when I was younger, and I know the thing is, over time, places change, but it seems like it's changed so dramatically that they're two different places in my mind. And I don't know if maybe it's because when I was younger, we didn't live so close by, so it felt more of a build up to getting there. Whereas when we lived closer, it was like, oh yeah, it's just like 20 minutes down the road. It's not that much of a, you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
It just feels like two completely different places, and I wouldn't associate them with the same location. So, you know, whereas Ross Niger is the same. I mean, it's changed. There's obviously more, like, you know, businesses and stuff. But, you know, I can go down a road and go, oh yeah, we went in there. You know, I've got more visual places that I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that, you know?
I was thinking as well, there's something very special about holidays, but it's fueled by a need. So the reason why we have holidays is to try and rest and recuperate, and that's never been more important than young people who are autistic, particularly with complex presentations with ADHD and PDA. There's that real need to have a sleep routine that is their routine rather than the dictated one by school times. And one of the things that was very key for you was the minute you knew it was Friday night, and the minute you knew it was half term, and the minute you knew it was the holidays, it was like, whoa, you know, what time does Yasmin get up? You know, you had the real luxury of knowing, right, I can go to bed a lot later, I can get up a lot later, and I'm much sunnier in my mood. And even now, you really kind of stick to that. And I think for a lot of young people, they really need that rest and recuperation. And it is such a luxury, particularly if parents remind their children, right, it's Friday night, it's Saturday night, right, it's half term, what are we going to do slightly differently, so that it allows that relaxation can come back into its natural sync. Because with that, if you're still expected to get up early or go to bed at the same time, it really does rub children up the wrong way, doesn't it?
Yeah, so interestingly, I'm on Reddit a lot, I'm on social media a lot. There was a parent who said, are they a bad person because they still give their kids a routine during summer? So their kids get up at 6 a.m. They are expected to do a mile run in 15 minutes. I've got long legs. I can't even run half a mile in 15 minutes. And he said, well, oh, my youngest daughter is 8. I'm like, what, an 8-year-old running a mile at 6 a.m.? What is wrong with you people? And then his kids are expected to do chores, 2 hours worth of chores every day, even if they're on holiday. And his other friends are saying, how are you doing this to your children? This is like, are you running a boot camp? Is that what you're doing? And his kids go, oh yeah, but our dad's trying to give us a better sports life. And it's like, yeah, but that feels like such an intense routine. It's almost like a job. The idea of that tires me out. And I'm an adult. I can't running. And the dad went, I always tell them they have to run the mile in 15 minutes. He went, there's no consequences, but it gives them something to strive for. And I'm like, oh, okay. It's like, if you told me, right, Yasmin, get up, we're going to run a mile, do it in 15 minutes, you know what I'd be saying to you? It wouldn't be polite enough to say on here, but jog on. You be jogging on.
I dread to think how so many parents would even tolerate having things chucked or thrown at them, or worse still, being threatened with being stabbed, or attacked, with amazing missiles that, things in the household never were deemed as missiles, but suddenly became missiles. I think hopefully that's a rarity rather than thinking of that's how we do things. It's really important that we do things differently in holidays, because you just need that recuperation.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And part of it is definitely getting the body to rest.
Yeah, I tell you, I'm not saying that your kids have to suddenly, sleep 12 hours a day, but you just need that kind of break to reset, especially as when your children are still school age. Their bodies are going through a lot anyway.
Yeah.
You just need that time to be able to, deal with it all. I can't imagine what I've done.
One of the things I suppose I really like about the holidays as well is there feels, if rules are slightly relaxed. I know that my parents were very insistent that when you sat at the table, and you did sit at the table, you always never put your elbows on the table. You always ate with a knife and fork. And yet, obviously, I haven't had to insist on that for you. What you had was, I will teach you how we do it, but I will not insist. And, holidays, again, are much easier for finger food for autistic individuals, for a lot of autistic individuals.
I was about to ask
mobility.
Well,
go on.
Apparently, it's a British thing.
Yeah.
Apparently, all British mums, when it gets just a little bit too hot, what should we have for tea tonight? We'll have picky bits. And I'm like, my mum has never said that, And I'm like, I don't really like cold food. So I've never really done the whole, let's have some quiche and some mini sausage. I can't do that. I physically can't. I have to have something warm. or maybe I just won't have dinner that night because I'm just like I can't be dealing with it. But regular people I say regular people who aren't me seem to love this idea of having dinner that's just full of cold, snacky food, and I'm like, how can you people do that? I mean, you do it all year round, and I'm like, I don't understand.
But only because I can't tolerate hot temperatures like you.
Yeah, see, well, that's the thing. I struggle with hot temperatures. It's an autistic thing. Of one time, I didn't cook a tinned food. Unwell, and now I get so worried I'm gonna make myself sick unless it. I get so worried I'm gonna make myself sick, and then I can't eat the food. I have to wait like 5 minutes for it to cool down to a point where I can eat it. But it makes me feel better that it's so hot I can't possibly get sick from eating it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean it is interesting. I do think it's easier, particularly if you're thinking about picnics, to have picnic food. But again, that brings into question as well, because if you think about children or young people who are worried about germs, generally like eating together with the noises or because of what other people think of them. It's really quite challenging, isn't it? Because you invariably find that everybody has to go into Tesco's and buy their pre-packaged food. Or mine, you haven't touched it, or this is my plate, I must have my plate, or my.
Sorry about that. I'm not sure what happened. You stopped moving. I can still hear you talk.
Yeah. I was thinking about you and I drinking out of plastic. I'm not very good with that because I can smell it and I can taste that something's not quite right with it. But nor can you, when you're going out on a picnic, nor do you generally take out your best china, do you, or glasses? Some children, and adults, insist on having the same glass, or the same cup or the same plate. It does get. You can see how an autistic family find it a lot easier just to stay at home because everything's there, isn't it?
Well, even at home, these things still happen. Somebody puts the forks in, forks that I don't like touching, normal forks go in together, or I bought these glass tumblers with letters on them, and of course Y's are never available, so I went, I'll go with a D for my surname. Got it. And then I came downstairs once and you were drinking from my cup, and I'm like, the one with an L on it is still in the cupboard. How did it's literally got letters on it? How have you still messed up? And then you go, you never told me. And I'm like, I could tell you until I'm blue in the face. You still do it. And for some weird reason, there is now a teaspoon that I have never seen in my life. And for some weird reason, it's now in the kitchen, the teaspoons. And segregation is not a good thing. But when I just don't like, can't touch, or dishwashers. I've recently realised I really dislike things that have come out of a dishwasher because they have this really weird ceramic metallic-y smell that puts me off eating off it. I'm not quite sure what it is, but when it's so close to my nose, I can smell it, and it really makes me feel well. And that's the thing, you can't explain it to somebody who doesn't understand, because where do you even start? No, I can't drink out that cup because it smells, and they'll be like, well, it's just out the dishwasher. Yeah, I know. That's the whole point. It smells, you know.
Yeah. Somebody, just going back to the beach, somebody has suggested that waves make swimming less predictable, and my family are much happier swimming in lakes. Well, there's a good point, isn't there? I mean, that's
lakes are just as unsafe. You get these little water scorpions, and I have a nightmare I'm going to swallow them or something, and that just stresses me out. And I'm a very tall person, so I could probably just stand up, but I'm so worried there's going to be like a branch or something, and I'm going to get tangled in it, and I'm going to drown and die, and it just stresses me out. So I prefer swimming pools, but then again, even when I was a kid, do you remember there was for about 6 months, I couldn't put my head underwater in swimming because the deep painted blue lines, I kept having nightmares that this hand was going to come and grab me and drag me down. So, you know, maybe it's just I just don't like water. I am clearly not meant for water. You know, and then you've got people who go, oh, come on my boat. No, thank you. I might die. I don't want to do that. Thank you very much.
If we were thinking about, because we need to start wrapping this program up, but if we're to think about the advisories, so we've got about 8 minutes left. If we're thinking about the advisories for summer holidays, I mean, are there any key sort of things that we do need to kind of consider if we were doing a sort of planning list? Because that's clearly what is needed, isn't it? You kind of need to plan ahead. So I'm thinking, first off, I need a calendar. I need to kind of see what I'm kind of got booked. And then when you kind of look at an empty calendar, that of course throws up, oh, well, what are we going to do? So it's really about hunting down different resources and to find out what's on, what's available. Of course, does it fit in within a budget, because everybody has a budget. But also, can everybody do it? Because not everybody in the household will want to go and say, for example, go to F1, or will want to go and play crazy golf. And equally, not everybody is happy going out to the beach, you know, for a whole day. They might go for an hour or 2 hours, but they might not want to go for a whole day. So you're kind of having to think about the needs of everybody, and then how do you split it, which is probably very difficult for, say, for example, single parent families who have got 2 children with very different, you know, interests, or likes and dislikes. When there's only one parent, it's not like you can say, okay, well, you go with mum and you go with dad. And equally, lots of children don't have the luxury of being able to go and stay with their grandparents and have, you know, 2 or 3 days with them to go and do something different. Not all children have access to cities or to beaches. You know, it's very much about thinking, what can you find in your local area? And if you are going away, are you going abroad, or are you going, you know, to a different county? You know, there's lots to consider, isn't there? So there's a lot of effort needed for the planning, and sometimes the fine planning can't happen until almost the day before or an hour before, but you've got to kind of have a general idea, haven't you? Once you've kind of got over that hurdle of plotting and scheming on your calendar, it's then thinking about, what does the task involve, and have you allowed for enough rest breaks in between, because that gets really tiring for autistic individuals, you know, and it's sometimes too overwhelming. If you've got family members coming to stay, or you're going to go and stay with family members again, how do you fit in a routine that doesn't impact, you know, have you got a room where it's a quiet room where your children can go, or you can go when you need time out? You know, if you go to the beach or you go to a theme park, have you got places that you can go where it's not so busy, and, you know, there is something else that you can do as an activity? So again, there's lots of plotting and scheming, isn't there? And food is a definite way of breaking up your day, but also allows you to sort of break up your day, as it were. Like, you know, I know whenever we're on holiday, Yasmin, you were all having your ice cream break. That was a major part of the deal, you know, because you for some reason that was definitely, oh, it's holiday time, but it's also, well, this is an activity in itself. You know, from
Yeah.
the choosing to where do you go and get your ice cream from, you know, and how many scoops and what are you going to do differently with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best time for that was ever when we were on that all-inclusive holiday and they would have ice cream all the time. But then at the start of the hour, they'd have like a new flavor come out and I would always be there. So I think one day, I think we had about 12 ice creams in a day and you hadn't realized I'd gone back for more. So I think you thought I'd only had like 3 or 4. And then I started feeling really unwell and you're like, well, what have you eaten? And I was like, ice cream. But now I want some ice cream, so I'll have to go down to the freezer and get some in a minute because we've been talking about it so much. You know?
Yeah, I think as well as part of the planning, there's an awful lot of planning that also goes into the journey. We talked right at the beginning about the transitions. They're quite a struggle, but the journeys are too, aren't they? They can be quite arduous, particularly if they're very long. Or if you're sitting in a car, you know, who gets to sit in the front seat? Who gets to take the remote control of the radio? Who gets to have the choice of sunroof open or the windows down or the windows up and air conditioning or the temperature within the car? But also thinking about what have you got as, again, plotting a long journey. So another of our families looked at every single service station from when they left home to when they got to their activity, and you know, really did their homework. They investigated each service station. Was it a McDonald's? Was it a Waitrose? You know, was there a Greg's? Because depending on what time they were going to set off, dependent on where they could stop for, you know, shall we have pizza for lunch or shall we just go to a McDonald's, you know, or you know, do we need to pick up some, I don't know, kitchen roll from, you know, Spa? You know, it was all important about where were they going and what were they doing. So I think from my perspective, it feels like today a lot has been thinking about being very mindful of what do you need to think about, what do you need to consider. And it really doesn't matter what the activity is. There is always invariably a lot of planning. And if you're only ADHD, that's a bit of a problem because invariably for ADHD, we lose focus, we get distracted very easily. And we're generally not good unless we have a list, tick list, you know, or somewhere where we collect everything together, like putting things on a bed in preparation. But even then, you know, it's still a huge volume of planning, isn't it?
Yeah. And the thing is, I can't say I recommend doing this. Like, I don't like so much. I don't mind having a loose time schedule.
Yeah.
But if somebody would say to me, okay, we're going to be at this place from 3 to 4, it's 4, we're leaving right now. I couldn't deal with that. I need a bit of like bleed room so that if we go slightly over, it's okay. And I don't feel like I'm in a rush for everything else because like
Yeah.
that just gets. There are other autistic people who are very, we finish at 4, I am leaving at 4, you know. So I can't say that's wrong or I'm right, you know. I can't say that. It's who you're with, really.
But it's
You
but
know,
it's important that you're mindful of that, isn't it?
exactly.
And
I mean,
holidays are generally supposed to be relaxing. So if you're struggling with it being absolutely finite, it's fine if everybody operates to that. But also that's where you kind of need to think about, well, what's the backup plan, you know? And have you got another activity that will allow that person to kind of feel okay whilst everybody else is enjoying finishing it slowly?
yeah.
So listen, we've come to the end of our programme today. Yasmin, as ever, you've been amazing. So thank you so much for your input with all of this, because it is so important to think quite widely, isn't it, about, you know, what do we need to consider? I know we've talked a lot about the beach today, But of course, there are many, many other things. And I know we've got several weeks over the summer holidays, so we could, in theory, think about different settings and what we might need to consider. Thanks also to all of you who have watched. And I know there is a few of you tend to watch this or listen to this in the evening. So my thanks again to you as well. Just to let you know that we are approaching our second birthday for the M Word. And so we will be putting things up to celebrate that, be it photographs, or I believe there's another photography competition coming out around food. But also the fact that we've got another workshop coming up for parents and professionals on the 9th of August. And this one is the intermediate level regarding autism. So if you are keen to learn more about that, you know who to email. In the meantime, we'll be back next week, back to our usual time, I believe, 12:15. And we look forward to seeing you then. Take care, everybody. Have a lovely, lovely end of term for those who are finishing, and carry on having a lovely holiday if you're on holiday. Scotland and Lincolnshire, or Leicestershire, I think it was. Take care, everybody. See you soon. Bye now.
Bye.